So I've been talking about the past few days of this California complaint that Blake Lively filed, and we were just asking questions, and I was wondering, like, how does this fit in? And my belief was that after reading the language of the actual law and how to file and the procedures, and my assumption was that, which was correct, was that she filed that complaint and then nothing else happened. But one of the things that I was not aware of when I found out on the live stream was that when I doing my video was that Blake needed to have a right to sue letter from California in order to sue Justin Baldoni. At the time, I did not realize she did have the right to sue, and she got that letter. But when I tell you the details, you're going to realize how conniving and manipulative she actually is. When you file a complaint with California, there is a certain set of rules, a standard that has to be followed. So the person will file their complaint, it has to be accepted, and then it has to be investigated. They have to get a response from the accused and then continue to investigate, and then they will try to mediate if possible. If it's anything that's founded, if the facts actually bear out, they would try to mediate. If not, they can actually dismiss it. And in necessary cases, they can bring a lawsuit on the accuser's behalf, or the accuser then can ask for a right to sue letter and approval from California for them to actually just go into a lawsuit and sue the person that they're accusing of the sexual harassment or discrimination. Come to find out, she has that right to sue letter. But I want to show you this. So this is what she filed, and let's make it bigger so you can take a look. And again, this all leads back to her trying to get his lawsuit against her dismissed, and she's claiming that because of the protections that are in California for a person who files this civil rights complaint, she's claiming that they can't ret- do anything retaliatory. They can't try to then sue her because she's making these claims. It equates to like an anti-slap law, like you if and it's meant for people who do not have means, or average person. We're not talking about elite privileged people, rich people like Blake Lively, but people like her, just as Brian Friedman said, that is Justin Baldoni's attorney, was that she is using this, and this is a gross misuse of the law, the way she's doing it, because she is, as a privileged person, taking this as though she is some underprivileged victim. And this is why this ties into this and how insidious it is. And he's absolutely correct. And that's why I cannot wait for his response to her motion to dismiss. But looking at this, look at the date. It says December 20th, okay, is when she filed it, which we all knew, right? But then let's go down here. The same date, and I want to see if there's any timestamp on this. I don't see a timestamp. I don't know if there's a timestamp actually in the that will be in, if you actually go into their look up the actual legal filings and all of that. But I don't think there's a way to do that, because this is privileged. This is something that is kept private. We know that Blake Lively actually made it public when she went forward with the New York Times, who she had been working with for months before. Then she filed her complaint. The next day, the New York Times came out with their article. But she got this right to sue the same day. No, nothing had been done, no investigation. They didn't even notify Justin Baldoni. They wouldn't have had enough time. It's the same day. No response from him, no type of investigation, no mediation. Absolutely nothing was done. She filed it and then immediately went right to being able to sue him. And this is why she's in trouble. And I actually found out some interesting information that, guess who else tried to use this very law? Amber Heard against Johnny Depp. And of course, she ended up losing that because you can't just say that this is retaliatory when you've chosen to go this route. Your facts and evidence have to bear out. But that was slapped down from her. So she was not able to do it. And we know this case bears many of the same marks of that one. It's a lot of people are comparing Blake Lively to Amber Heard, and I consider it the same thing. I do see the parallels. These very privileged women who think that they can get away with this and try to falsely accuse a man of these crimes, of doing different things, when they in fact are the ones that are trying to enrich themselves by making false accusations. That's at least my opinion. So looking at this, it says notice of filing of discrimination complaint. Wait, is that the first one? Okay, here it is. So that's when she filed it on the 20th. Now, this is the notice of case closure and right to sue. Dear Blake Lively, this letter informs you that the above referenced complaint with the Civil Rights Department has been closed effective December 20th, 2024, because an immediate right to sue notice was requested. This letter is also your right to sue notice. According to the Government Code section, I can go into all that. A civil action may be brought under the provisions of the Fair Employment and Housing Act against the person, employer, labor organization, or employment agency named in the above reference complaint. The civil action must be filed within 1 year from the date of this letter. To obtain a federal right to sue notice, you must contact the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to file a complaint within 30 days of receipt of this CRD notice of case of closure, or within 300 days of the alleged discriminatory act, whichever is earlier. Sincerely, the Civil Rights Department. So this is the problem for her. Because she decided to sue and not go through this process, he wouldn't be able to put a lawsuit against her, a countersuit, or anything else against her if she was still in the process with California. If she had gone through the investigation, allowed them to notify him, get his responses, them to comb through the information, and do a thorough investigation, and then see where the facts actually lie. Why would she do that? Why would she immediately file to sue? She didn't care about doing this. This was something so that she can say, look, I have this legal document and I can wave it around and I can file this. And this is the reason why. And then I'm going to show you some more details about why Justin Baldoni can sue. This is the reason why I believe she did this, because we know that she was working with the New York Times to put this out, to put out the article, and to, essentially, in my opinion and Justin Baldoni's opinion, to defame him. And so when you think about it, if the New York Times, as they claim, trove through thousands of documents and text messages, but then they cherry pick the different ones that they wanted to choose out of sequence, out of context, out of everything, they then say, okay, we need some more teeth to this thing. If you really were sexually harassed, where are the HR complaints? Well, there are none. Sony said that they did not have any HR complaints. We know that it is alleged that she threatened to say that he sexually assaulted her if they didn't give her more agency over the movie. And so when you think about it, when New York Times is looking at this, okay, these are just allegations, but if there's something truly happened, we need something legally, not legally binding, but something that really gives it bite, not just what you're saying, because there was no evidence of this alleged harassment. This is just her saying it. This is just her contriving it. From what I've seen, I have not seen anything that documents sexual harassment. And if anybody wants to refer to that 17-point document that they agreed to, that Blake Lively demanded in order to come back to work, well, that wasn't a sexual harassment meeting. There weren't, all of these lawyers involved. They didn't have HR there doing minutes. They weren't doing an investigation. None of that happened. No one agreed that anything on that 17-point list, that those demands she made in order to come back to work, ever took place. These were just things she put out there in order to create a paper trail, or, in my opinion, an intimidation factor against the Wayfair parties, and specifically Justin Baldoni, so that she can create some type of story, some type of narrative. But the reason why, if there was true sexual harassment, she knew that there would be an investigation, that she would have to provide evidence, documents, receipts, that there would have to be something more than just her word about it. So because she knows that that is the proper channel and an investigation would take place, instead, let's just write this list so it appears as though these things happen and I just demand they don't happen in order to make them look bad. This is the same thing she did here. She didn't want California to actually investigate, just like she wouldn't want an HR department to investigate her claims, because as we've seen from the evidence, the facts would not bear out very well for her. They would all side for Justin Baldoni, as we've seen, hence why we are here and supporting him. So she immediately wants that gone away so she can just sue. And I want to show you this really quickly. I covered this article a couple days ago, and these are 3 different sources from Blake Lively's team and Ryan Reynolds' team that are detailing all of the trouble that they're going through and have their good days and bad days in their marriage. And, it's really sympathetic towards them. And that's how you know it's their team. But of course, how would they have information about what's going on with Blake and Ryan if they weren't on their side? But something they slipped in here that a lot of people probably missed. I pointed it out at the time, but now it makes even more sense. Let me see. Okay, because they're talking about things are getting tense at home. They've had their lives turned upside down. It's been hard. So they are speaking on behalf of Blake and Ryan. Their children are struggling, all of that. Let me do a search because this is going to take me forever to find this. But I want to pull this out because this goes right into this. Here it is. According to the first source, Lively and Reynolds weren't expecting Baldoni to fight back so hard. She was expecting she could file that complaint. I don't want an investigation, just like I don't want an HR investigation, because this is just a bunch of BS that I'm putting out here. These are my words. This is what I'm thinking was happening. And we know that she was scheming for quite some time. At least that's what it appears to be from the evidence. So she was scheming for a long time. She knows she can't really have these facts investigated because people are going to call her out on her BS. Same thing with this complaint. She did not want California to investigate. She wants immediately to sue so that she can have that looming over his head to silence him, because they didn't expect him to fight back. But if this sexual harassment, this a potential lawsuit is looming over him, well, he's just going to go in quietly into the night. He's just going to acquiesce to her, as he's been doing this entire film, trying to keep the peace and trying to get this movie he's been working for 5 years to finally come to fruition, and that his company will finally put out this big movie that they have been working on so hard. He did not want his work to be damaged, regardless of all the drama behind the scenes. He was taking the mature route. He was taking the route that I think is why people are so much on his side. You can see his good character. And when you think back and you look at it, so she files this is looming over him. The New York Times article comes out and she feels kind of protected by that. But then when he filed the lawsuit against the New York Times, and then when people were saying, okay, if all this happened, why haven't you sued him? Well, then she finally then sues him. But again, she's still thinking he's not going to fight back so hard. She may even have thought that he was going to move to settle, because she was expecting this Me Too outpouring for her, that everyone was going to be on her side. Everyone was going to say, poor Blake, because, in the 2015, 16, 17 era, even 2018 and up, and I will say until Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, that was what was happening. People didn't really ask questions. They didn't dig deep. It was just enough to just accuse a man of something and he will be canceled. That is what she was expecting. And then she had the cast and Colleen Hoover and everyone else on her side, not following him, and they support her. Go look at her, what was put out there about Justin. And she expected an avalanche of support to come to her, while an avalanche of condemnation and whatever else would happen, the consequences would all be on Justin Baldoni, and that she could probably even get some coin. But I don't even think it was money. Remember, she wanted the rights to the book, to Colleen Hoover's novels. This is what is being alleged in his filings. This is what we have all been seeing. So when you look at this, right? She was expecting, okay, if you want this to go away, if you want this lawsuit to go away, I want the rights, all the rights you have to the Colleen Hoover novels so that I can produce those movies. I've already taken over this movie as though it was my production, even though I was just hired to be an actor. But I did my rug pull that I always like to do on a director. I like to take over a movie. I come in maliciously where they think they hired me for one thing, but the reality is I'm sneaky. I'm conniving. I'm in the background trying to take over things, trying to take over this person's project and claim it as my own because I don't have enough competence and to do it myself. She has a production company. Multiple movies have been announced coming out under her production company. And where are they? Where are they? She's incapable of launching something and getting it off the ground herself, especially something that's going to be successful. So it's better to take over someone else's movie. Then she can go on and do sequels of this film under her production, right? And now Justin Baldoni has just floated off. He's gone. He's gone. And we also know that she was sitting with Colleen Hoover, and she said, "I will follow Colleen. If Colleen has the rights to her movie, yeah, I would be in the next one, even possibly direct the next one." This is where she was headed, and I believe this was the move she was trying to make. But again, Lively and Reynolds weren't expecting Baldoni to fight back so hard. Now, I ended up asking Grok to kind of just explain all these laws, explain if Justin Baldoni is allowed to countersue, if he's allowed to sue Blake Lively. Listen to these answers. Yes, the accused defendant generally has the right to file a countersuit called a counterclaim in legal terms against the accuser, plaintiff, provided they have valid legal basis for doing so. This is a standard part of civil litigation in California. When the plaintiff files their lawsuit, the defendant can respond by filing an answer and, if applicable, a counterclaim in the same case. The counterclaim asserts the defendant's own claims against the plaintiff, which could arise from the same situation or related matter. Now, this is all under the, that California statute. He is allowed to countersue her. Okay, it is in that language, but again, this explains it a little better, the details of how this goes about. So her claiming, well, this is retaliatory for him to just even countersue me is an absolute fabrication and a lie. Her legal team knows this. Everyone knows this, but I believe that they're trying to score brownie points. I don't know. I don't see the judge even. I mean, he's not going to grant this for her. It's going to go forward. Okay. She may have been able to get away with it if the California Civil Rights Department was actually investigating it and all of that, then that wouldn't take place. But because that's not a lawsuit, that's an investigation under that state agency. So in those terms, you can't do the retaliatory thing because they have to go through the process of finding fact at that time. And then you have to understand that would have been privileged. That would have been private. No one would have known about it. And whatever the outcome was of it, then if it was the facts were finding on his side, he could actually sue her for that. But because she moved immediately to move this to the courts, take it out of that the government agency, the Civil Rights Department, and go right to sue, he has every right to countersue. It's almost like she's trying to say, I can make these claims, I can file a lawsuit against you, and you don't have a right to do anything about it. You don't have a right to present your facts. You don't have a right to say that you were defamed, which is nonsense. So the requirements for a counterclaim: the defendant must have a legitimate cause of action such as defamation, breach of contract, or malicious prosecution supported by facts and evidence. For example, if the defendant believes the plaintiff's lawsuit is frivolous or filed in bad faith, they might countersue for malicious prosecution or abuse of process, but only after the original case concludes in their favor, as these claims typically require proof that the initial suit lacked merit and was pursued with improper intent, which I believe Justin Baldoni has the evidence to prove this. The timing. The counterclaim is usually filed within the defendant's answer to the plaintiff's complaint within 30 days of being served, unless extended by the court or agreement. Practical considerations. The accused doesn't automatically have a right to countersue just because they've been sued. They need a factual and legal basis for their claim. For instance, if the accused believes the accuser fabricated the allegations, they might countersue for defamation. He's allowed to sue for defamation. The very thing she's saying he's not allowed to do. But they need to prove the statements were false, damaging, and made with malice. I think the overwhelming evidence shows all of that. In employment cases, countersuits by employers against employees are less common due to the risk of appearing retaliatory, which could violate FEHA or other laws. Courts scrutinize such claims carefully. So for him as an employer to actually countersue, that means he has a very strong case, because the courts will scrutinize him far more than they scrutinize her initially to make sure he actually does have a claim here and he's not just doing it to be retaliatory. Right? So the outcome, whether the countersuit succeeds, depends on the evidence and the specific circumstances. Both the original lawsuit and the counterclaim would proceed in the same court case unless one is dismissed earlier via a motion to dismiss or summary judgment. But again, the motion to dismiss has to have merit. Hers does not. Right? There are some cases where there is a good cause for their motion to be dismissed to be granted, but this is not that case. So in short, yes, the accused can countersue the accuser after a right to sue notice leads to a lawsuit, as long as they have a valid claim. Hello? Hello? The ability to countersue isn't tied to the CRD process itself, but to the general rules of civil procedure in California courts. All right. So either way, this is New York or this is California. Both actually have laws, that kind of anti-slap laws that could apply, that she could try to use, but it has no merit. It has no basis. And this is the problem for her, because she moved immediately for a right to sue. And then she actually did. That gave Justin everything he needed, all of the permission, everything. When she did that, everything then was in his favor to countersue with all of his evidence. So in essence, she really effed herself, because if she had kept it quiet, she had kept it private and allowed the Civil Rights Department, the CRD, to actually investigate and to do it behind the scenes and then see what the outcome was, and then she could have sued him, or they would have sued on her behalf, she would have avoided this. But at the same time, that complaint would have been shown to be not valid and having no merit to it, and especially when Justin presented his evidence. So either way, she's effed. But at least it wouldn't have been public and completely ruined her career, her and Ryan Reynolds' career at this point. So guys, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. I know I gave you a lot of information, but I just wanted to walk you through it. And if I make a mistake or an assumption, I always want to correct it. But my original premise still stands. She has absolutely no chance of this motion to dismiss going through. It's laughable. Things will proceed just as Brian Friedman said, and he is ready for discovery. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys very shortly.